Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Project Auto YouTube channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. We are in the garage and you can see what's right here behind me. We have finally gotten the 2004 Volkswagen Jetta back after its last repair. Went into the shop. It's been gone for quite a while now. So finally got it back, but you can see I got gloves on, so we're doing something else to it today. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so if you guys remember from a couple of videos ago, we did the brakes all the way around on this car. And I don't remember, I think I did. I mentioned that it was going to be going in the shop for a repair. The repair that it went in for was the heater core. So this car had been sitting for probably about a year and a half, 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. And before I had parked it, we did the timing belt and the water pump. Now I did not shoot a video doing that, but the water pump was leaking at that time. And after I did that, I was still losing coolant. I got tired of it. I stopped messing with it. I got busy, so didn't really mess with the car that much. Well, come to find out it was the heater core. And anybody that knows, heater cores can be difficult. They're in behind the dashboard, and being Volkswagen is not always the easiest or the most fun to work on, right? So I found a shop that was able to do it. It took him a little bit longer than I expected. He was busy with other repairs, but let's see if I can get in here. I think I have the repair order in here. So I had called Volkswagen dealership just to see how much it would cost through them, and it was about $1,400 to $1,500, parts, labor, and everything. To me, that's a lot of money, and I did not want to put that much money into an old beater car that has, you know, paint peeling, and it's got 183,000 miles on it now, somewhere around there. So I didn't really want to put that much money into this car. I'd already put about $200 into the brakes. It still needs some other work. We're going to do, to it slowly, because this car does run phenomenal. It still runs great. A little backstory. I bought this car in 2015, I think it was. It had 110,000 miles on it then. And I put this car through the ringer, man. I drove this thing everywhere. It was the only car I had at the time. So I put a lot of miles on it and put it through the ringer. And then I kind of neglected it as I bought other vehicles. So I feel bad. I love this car. It's still great. The paint peeling is my fault. And actually you can see right there, that's why. I left it sitting out in the open, not covered, and birds pooped on it. I did a video on that, of why bird poop's bad for your paint. And that's exactly why right there. So, yeah, so my fault. But enough rambling about that. So got the heater core replaced. Like I said, Volkswagen wanted about $1,400 or $1,500. So I'm going to show you what I paid this other local shop that specializes in Asian, European, and domestic cars. I'm going to show you guys what I paid to have the heater core done on this car. So let me show you. All right, so as you can see there, $675.82. So labor was obviously what got the most of it, $525, $140.95 in parts, tax, gotta pay the tax man. So it all came out to $675.82. So that's definitely a lot better than $1,400, $1,500. That's half of what Volkswagen would have charged to do this. Now I do want to talk about my experience with this. This shop, I'm not going to mention the name. He was a very nice guy. I'm not dogging him on that. Very nice. Oh, well, if I can hold the camera right. Very nice guy. But when I called him and scheduled this to get done, he said that it would be about a week, maybe 2 weeks. Well, about a month goes by, and hadn't heard anything from him. So I called him, and he had a car that was in the shop with a blown engine, and he was struggling with that. So it would be a little bit longer than expected. Okay, I understand. I'm not in a big hurry to get it back. I do want to get the car back as soon as possible because I wanted to start driving it, but it is what it is. So another month goes by, haven't heard anything. So called the guy, and I happened to be on vacation, And he said that the heater core was done, but what had happened was when he was putting everything back together, I'll go ahead and show you, he had damaged the glass or the plastic cover here for the gauge cluster. He had broke it into a couple different pieces when he was reinstalling it. So he had to order the new glass or plastic, I think it's plastic cover, to get that replaced. And I said, well, I assume you're not going to charge me for that because that wasn't my fault. And he said, no, I'm not going to charge you for that. Okay, so a couple more days go by. He finally calls, says everything's done, ready to go. Cool. So I get up there, pay for it, pick up the car. I'm on my way back home. And if you can see how much dust and dirt is all over the car had been sitting there for so long that it was dirty. It was covered in dust and everything else. So I went to hit the windshield washer stalk to clean off the windshield, and the water sprayed out, but the wipers weren't working. So I was like, okay, so I flipped the switch up and down trying to get it to work. They wouldn't work. Finally, when I kicked it up into high, they worked. And then as soon as I put the switch back down, wherever the wipers were is where they stopped. So if it was in the middle of the windshield, or if it was all the way down, all the way up, didn't matter. That's where they stopped. So my first thought was, oh, great, he hooked something up wrong or didn't hook up something correctly. So I called him up and he's like, well, it could be the wiper remote, could be this, could be that. Bring it back whenever you can and I'll look at it. So I got off the phone with him and I said, no, I'm not. It already took 2-3 months before. I don't have time to bring it back and wait and all this stuff. So I'm going to go home and I'll figure this out myself. Now, I did not videotape any of this. I should have, but it was just in the moment. I was just kind of aggravated, so I didn't. But long story short, come to find out that the wiper motor had failed. So went to a local junkyard. They happened to have an identical, same year, everything. The only thing was different was it was silver versus blue. Pulled the wiper motor off of it, replaced the wiper motor. Everything's great, working fine. Here's where it gets interesting. That night, after I put the new wiper motor in it, my wife and I, like I said, we were on vacation. It was a staycation, so we stayed home. I didn't videotape much. I just spent time with her. But we wanted to go out and get something to eat. So I said, well, let's go ahead and take the little Volkswagen, give it a little ride, see how it does. So we get going down the road, and the scariest thing happened. And at this point, I'm pissed. So I'm going to hop in the car and I'll show you. So we're in the car, and I still hadn't readjusted everything from where he had the dash out and the steering wheel and all that good stuff. So we're going down the road, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to, lower the steering wheel a little bit, adjust it, whatever. So I go to pull the latch that's underneath here. If you can see it, there's a latch down here to be able to raise and lower the steering wheel. It's also telescoping. So as soon as I do that, the whole steering column drops almost into my lap to where I couldn't steer. And I thought, what the heck? So I lifted it back up, and then it wouldn't let me move it in or out. I couldn't move the telescoping settings at all with the steering wheel. So at this point, I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? So I pull over, and the latch down here wouldn't go back into place. Well, it finally snapped back into place. And as I'm sitting here, I could take this entire steering column and I could shift it from side to side a good bit, not just a little bit, but I could shift this whole column side to side. And I'm thinking, boy, no, like something's majorly wrong. At this point, it's like 7:30. The guy's closed. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So we turned around, took the car back home. We dropped it off. We got into a different car, went to dinner, came back that night. It was probably like 9:30, and it's still running through my mind like I'm pissed. So I decided to pull it into the garage. And again, like I said, I should have filmed this, but I didn't. And I pulled it in the garage. I went ahead and took this dash panel off, got underneath there, and there is 2 bolts, one on each side of the steering column down here. And then there's also one all the way at the very bottom where the steering wheel column connects to the steering knuckle underneath the dash. All 3 of those bolts were just hanging on by a thread. They were loose. They weren't in tight at all, period. And I was like, oh my gosh. So he didn't tighten these bolts up. So this could have been a very, very bad situation had I done that on the highway, went to adjust my steering wheel on the highway, and that steering column drops into my lap, or I could have lost all steering. The whole column could have fallen off, whatever. So it could have been very bad. So I went ahead and tightened those bolts back up, and it's fine. Like I can't move the steering column now, which is what you want. And then I'm not done yet. This is going to be a long rambling video, and I'm sorry. And then I went to turn my air conditioning on, and I wasn't getting any air out of, I was getting a little bit of air out of this vent, but this one was absolutely no air whatsoever. And I thought, what in the world? It shows they're both open, whatever. Well, when he was putting all this back together, the flap in here, this is supposed to control the flap. So this closes these outside rails and also a flap inside that closes off the air. He didn't reinstall that flap on the inside that was a little bit farther in correctly. So it was actually stuck closed, even though this was showing open. So I had to take this piece out and fix that. And also in the midst of me doing that, I noticed that he had installed these heated seat controls incorrectly. So if you can see, they're squared off on this end, round off on this end. Well, this one was over here and this one was over there. So you could tell it just looked wrong and it looked funny. So I had to fix that. And we're still not done. The last thing that happened was the very next day after I fixed all that, I went to drive the car to work. And as I'm accelerating, the radio slides out and falls onto the gear shifter. And I was in third gear. And I was thinking, what in the world? At this point, I'm getting really pissed off. I'm about to show up to this guy's shop and you know, have a conversation with him. So I pull over once again. And if you see these little slots here, there's one in that corner, one in that corner, and then there's also one in this corner and one in this corner. Those are locking tabs, and they make a special tool that you're supposed to use to push into those to be able to unlock the radio and be able to pull it out. He did not seat the radio in fully, so the radio, the security tabs hadn't clicked in, so the radio was loose. It is now secured properly and pushed all the way in. Finally, that was the last thing that happened. No other issues since. We haven't lost any coolant. Everything's staying where it should be. No more issues with the dashboard. Nothing else has fallen apart yet. Thank God. Guess the moral of the story is you get what you pay for. So even though this guy specializes, and it even says here on his repair slip, you know, Asian, European, and domestic, double check somebody's work, man, before you leave. Make sure that everything's done properly, and you know, if there is any issues, take it back. You get what you pay for, $675. Still a good chunk of money, in my opinion. But I think the workmanship could have been a little bit better. And, you know, he can't say that I was rushing him because out of the 2-3 months that he had it, I maybe called him 3 times. So it wasn't like I was calling him every day and rushing him and rushing him and rushing him. So it is what it is. It was a lot of minor stuff except for the steering column. That is not minor at all. That could have been very bad. Very bad for him as well. But, you know, the rest of it was minor stuff. You know, I just wanted to share my experience. I'm not complaining about the air vent. That was a quick 2-second fix. The stereo, yeah, could have been worse. But, you know, it's just one of those things that, and it's Volkswagen too. So, I mean, and it's also a 2004. So it's, you know, 20 years old. So you got a lot of plastics that are brittle and, you know, all that good stuff. So I'm sure, you know, it's difficult, and it is a difficult job. You know, like I said, that entire dashboard had to come out to be able to get to it. So it is what it is, but that was my experience. But we have it back, and it's been driving great. There is one other issue that we need to get taken care of that's pretty major. We need to do pretty soon, and it is the passenger side rear wheel bearing. It is grinding pretty bad. So that's going to have to be replaced as soon as we can. But other than that, there's just regular maintenance stuff we have to do to it. We're getting ready to do an oil change, which I will do that in a separate video of how to change the oil on a Volkswagen Jetta. Pretty simple process. Most cars are. But yeah, so enough rambling. I think this video is going to be long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing my experience of getting the heater core changed out in this car. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad that it's running phenomenal. We have great heat. Everything works. We're not losing coolant anymore, thank God, because coolant for this thing is, you know, $30, $40 a jug. So we're saving a lot of money there. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. And if you're stopping by for the first time and you haven't already and you want to, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.